There's absolutely no space under the hood of this car. I mean, you have no room to go anywhere. You can't put a tank here. That was really our only option. Did a few things to facilitate putting that tank in. We had to take the relay box, which originally sits here, and we basically pulled the relays out of the box, folded them back into this waterfall plenum, and they're actually tucked back in here. So we just created a space. Luckily on the TT, we have this stress bar bracket that's right here. A little bit of clearance work on this plenum here to make that fit, but given what we had, I'm extremely happy with it. I mean, you can get right to it, you know, nice and out of the way, lid's right there, done. The pump, what we did is we just engineered a bracket that just basically spaced the factory bracket out, then bolted it right to the top of the training mount. Couldn't have found a better spot for it. If we hadn't had 42 drafts cold air, we would have never been able to do that, because clearance-wise, to clear the top of the shifter linkage and the bottom of the airbox, we couldn't have mounted that pump any lower. You know, it's nice and out of the way, and what's nice is all the wiring runs up and through into the plenum, so everything's all tucked out of the way. It's not getting burned up by exhaust. It's not getting wrapped around it, you know, whatever.
Which puts us into, now we're running our lines.
Right, so basically what we did is we came out of the pump, went underneath the airbox to this T-fitting here.
Yep.
And then that tees off over here and goes straight into our post-turbo nozzle. Then tees off here and goes down to our post-primary intercooler nozzle.
So this is the second tee here.
That's the second tee in line, correct.
That's going down into the intercooler.
Correct.
Right, it's actually going to the cross pipe.
That's going to the cross pipe, right about in front of the power steering pump. We got it to come straight in from the back. It looks real nice.
And then you have, back to this original tee,
we managed to mount the solenoid underneath the rad support. Yeah, right there, you can see it. Just mounted that, tucked that underneath the rad support, which gave us a nice run right out here to the throttle body.
There's an electronically controlled solenoid for the post-throttle body unit that we actually have the ability to have separate flow rate maps for before and after.
Right, and anything that's mounted after your throttle plate, you have to have on a solenoid.
Yeah.
Because of the simple fact that it's going to want to draw, because of vacuum being present from here.
Yeah, that's just a lot better than a check valve. I mean, this system, it's great. You can control it.
It's like a check valve, but now you can control that check valve and pulse it in there when you really, really want it. We have this vacuum line that runs into this port, which is nice. Perfect. Perfect location. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, you don't get any, there's no disruption from the nozzle coming down through, so you know it's not going to be hitting anything in the spray pattern. We basically, this used to go right to here with a little elbow. So this vacuum source feeds a lot. Now, if you're going to go to the point and do eliminate evap, who cares? Because all that's going to go away anyway, so you can hijack this and not have to replumb it. All we did was we just replumbed this with some silicone over to here and teed it into the brake booster line. The brake booster has a nice soft line, a soft hose right here we could tee into, and just regained our vacuum source. We just basically just moved it over. That way we could utilize this spot instead of drilling it into the intake, because if we go here, 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 we're going to have one cylinder that's going to be overfed, and we want it to try and get mixed up as that air tumbles across the throttle plate.
I mean, it's almost like...
It's just like using a throttle body spacer, but we're lucky enough. And this just literally is pressed in here, so all you got to do is just grab it with a pair of pliers and work it right out. At this point right here with the 3 DO3 nozzles, you have enough methanol going to this car for a 500 horsepower application. So, you know, it's a little overkill at this point, but we can adjust all that back with the maps.
Yeah, we'll dial it all down heavily with the maps. So let's talk about the fuel pump, which is also part of the Eurodyne system too.
This being the 044, which is a much better pump, is a lot bigger in diameter. This made it much easier. Less wiring, keep everything under the hood. We could run all the wires at once. And then you're right here. You know, you need to get to it, you're right there. Just a great spot. Now that's controlled off the Boost Manager. On a duty cycle type principle. It's not on all the time. And then once I had it hooked up with the Boost Manager, we weren't even sure it was working, because I'm like, wow, I didn't even hear it running. So I grabbed the test light and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is running, but just at a much lower, I mean, it's only pulsing the voltage in there at a 30% duty cycle at idle, because you don't need it. You don't want to take and push all that fuel through the fuel rail and more of it back to the tank, because as it's going through the fuel rail, it's getting hot. And all you're doing is making hot fuel go back to the gas tank, and that's the last thing you want. Cold fuel makes power.